Well, in this picture I'm going to be practicing mountain ranges, and this isn't designed to be a finished picture or anything like that. I like to practice picture elements as a chalk artist because when I do put together a drawing, particularly if I have to draw quickly in front of an audience, then I like to kind of have my technique down. So a lot of times, you'll notice I'm drawing very fast here, and that's the tape is not accelerated. This is the speed I normally draw at. And what I've done here first is to just lay in a little bit of white chalk, and I'm coming now to hit the tops of those cloud banks, just to give a feel of large cumulus clouds. I'm going to come back in a second and smooth out the edges a little bit, soften those, because I don't really want the clouds to dominate in this particular picture. I'm going to be drawing with the same color chalk that I toned the paper with, so I need to add a little bit more white in to get the value a little bit different from the chalk I'm using, so that the mountain doesn't disappear into the background. It almost does anyway, as you'll see in a few minutes. It's the values are just almost a little bit too close, but what I'm going to do is take that light blue chalk, and I'm going to draw essentially an upside down V, but I try not to make it too stark and too dramatic. And again, in this case, I want it to kind of fade into the distance, and so it's I'm trying not to have it stand out too much. Just come through and add a couple more of those mountain shapes, and then I'm going to use a slightly darker blue. It's pretty close to the one I was using, but just enough to add a little bit of variety in there, and actually bring it a little bit more out, as it was matching the background a little too much. Bring those edges out just a little bit, and then I'm going to smooth that out, soften the edges again. It's one thing that's just really nice about working with lecturer's chalk is it's so soft and smooth that you can blend quickly. It's similar to pastels in some respects, but it's really got a texture and a workability, I guess would be the word, that you don't really find with soft pastels. So I've laid in a little bit of blue and a little bit of white to kind of give a misty feel. I'm coming in with the color is officially called turquoise. It's really not a turquoise as far as I'm concerned, but that's the name of the color, and it's sort of a medium blue. And I'm going to lay in a closer mountain range. And when I finish this picture up later, I looked at it and said, well, that almost looks like seawater there, and the foreground that I'll do in a few minutes looks a lot like seawater. So you could almost call this oceans with a mountain in the background. But the intent was to draw just some mountain peaks, and with lecturer's chalk, a lot of times we have to kind of be creative in the colors that we use, simply because there's not a just really large palette. In fact, for many years that I drew, we only had 24 colors to draw with, and you couldn't really blend them very well. They were very similar to pastels in that respect, that it's just hard to blend the colors. So you're pretty much stuck with the colors that were in the palette, and many of them just really didn't lend themselves to creating a feel of distance or depth. So we've had to improvise a lot in drawing with chalk. And so I've laid in the light blue. I'm coming in and I'm going to hit it with some white now to kind of give, again, mountain peak, a little bit of snow feel maybe. And then I'm going to come forward again and add a little bit more in the way of this is kind of a bluish green color. In recent years, the palette has expanded, so we do have more colors to work with. So that does make it a little bit nicer. And these might be some foreground hills. Again, I'm not really thinking in terms of composition here. I'm just improvising and drawing whatever comes into my head. It's one of the fun things with chalk art. You can be very much in the moment and just draw what what comes to mind. And so I've just laid in a little bit of kind of again a dull green. Here's more of an olive green that's going to come in and just give us more of a grassy feel. And then a little bit of brown to round it out and kind of give us a dirt feel. If I can find the right color there. There we go. So those are just some practice misty mountains. I hope if you work with soft pastels, you might try this. You can do most of the same techniques in soft pastels. It's just they don't work quite the same, but you can pretty much create the same look. Or you can go to eternityarts.com and you can buy your own lecturer's chalk and try it for yourself. Hope you enjoyed this, and I'll have another technique video soon. I'm Jim Pence.